I want to say thank you to having been invited here. It's a pleasure to be sharing the journey of the last 6 years with you. And so I'm going to do it in terms of a case study of our major partner. Unfortunately, my partner is not here, as you can see, who is Royal Salute, which is a premium Scotch whisky. And basically, when I came into the market, we came into the market to develop high-end horse sports in China in about 2005, 2006. We looked around the world and also people we had relationships with. And after a period of about 3 years, we convinced Polo to partner with us, and they've been a steadfast partner with us. So this presentation is really about that partnership and some of the things that we've achieved together. And I will speak both on behalf of the world of horse sports in China, but also a little bit on Polo Party. Now, the point of this talk really is to share with you that the numbers of audience and high-value audiences can be swung very quickly into a particular brand. And from a position of zero knowledge about a brand, we've swung very quickly into knowledge and association with that brand. But to achieve that, you need to do a lot of thought and preparation and work and make sure the execution is precise. So that's, in summary, what I wanted to share with you. This slide is there's quite a few wordy slides, but I understand there should be a handout of this. Basically, I just wanted to share with you a few highlights from the summary. The first is that Royal Salute is a brand, although very much a luxury brand. The name itself reflects its heritage as being the whiskey of choice by the royal family of the UK. It had no association with this high-end sport called polo before. And it was very nervous about adopting an association in communist China with the sport, which is called the Sport of Kings, King of Sports. And so that was a big question around China, very much with a replication model. So this is not a one-off horse club or type of event that's been created. It's been a series of other clubs created. There are now 8 clubs in existence in China, and to our knowledge, 22 more in construction or in being planned currently. The environment, the reason I use this photo, apart from the environment that you see here is, the idea is to make it quite prestigious. The countryside atmosphere is very important. We're taking people out of their city and giving them a completely new experience. And that was a clear choice that we made as a company back in 2005 when we designed this, was we wanted to differentiate ourselves for luxury events away from 5-star hotels. In the early 2000s, there was a lot of very similar feeling and sounding events going on. Shangri-La was always full, Portland was always full, and they were very similar events night after night. And so what we were trying to do was create a completely different environment which would be appealing to the right audiences and where brands could differentiate the experience they were giving to them. So that's the idea of this clubhouse here, which was the first one built in China. And set the context and the environment is very, very important. So the greenery and thinking through the dynamics of what people experience when they get out of their cars, and indeed also the journey to the event itself. Since then, we've helped open up in Tianjin in 2010. They held their first tournament that year. There's now 3 clubs in Beijing going, of which we helped open Ringwood in 2009. Other things that we do is you can't only have a club environment dependent upon one event per year. It has to be ongoing, a series of activities. And we've been able to not only develop polo and equestrian activities, but also racing. And racing is a very controversial subject in China, and there's no gambling allowed, but there's been significant interest from both the national level as well as the local government level in how to organize race meets. And certainly there's great investment going on in developing race clubs in China. So for those of you who are in the market of high-end sports association and sponsorship, keep your eyes peeled for horse racing taking off in China in a big way in about 3 years' time. The main event that we're talking about now is going to be the China Polo Gold Cup. So we actually launched the series in 2007, but in 2009 we got the national award for that being the best sporting event of the year. Significant celebrity endorsements, significant crowds, and significant brand support. And I'm going to go into some of those, but I wanted to first anchor your understanding, because you've probably not been to a polo match, that this has become quite a major social event on the social calendar, the annual social calendar, as well as kicking off significant media interest. So, although you may yourself not have been there, it has become quite relevant. From a relatively quick start, as I said, we only started in 2007 with the first of these tournaments. Moving quickly to my partner side. So, the brand objectives from Royal Salute's point of view was quite simply strengthening the brand image. They are playing against Johnny Walker, particularly, and Johnny Walker Blue, for example. And so they wanted to own the high-end space in the minds of the African consumers. But very importantly, being an alcohol company, they wanted to achieve sales. It wasn't only about branding. And they measured the success of their association with us each year on the basis of sales achieved above their initial year when they worked with us. And second thing was that they wanted to make sure that they would have imagery that they could use throughout the whole year and stories they could use throughout the whole year. So although this would be a one-off event, they could get maximum benefit and value for that over a period of time. They wanted to own that space on an ongoing basis, not own an event every month, but have a media reinforcement messages in the CRM programs each month to people. The key aspect, therefore, from their point of view was education in the media. So you'll see the last point here about the media training. That became a very, very core point for them to get involved. And it was to educate people not on the sport, but on their lifestyle associated with the sport. And then that was reinforced through a long campaign, 3-month campaign prior to the event, throughout the whole of China, going through the KTV bars and so forth, giving competitions, promotional girls, raffles, instant gratification events, as well as opportunities for people to travel. So they really built it into the psyche throughout all of their outlets across the whole of China that this was a build-up to a major activity event, something that people should really look forward to and be privileged to go towards. And this way they primed the anticipation for participation. Just go back to my bit now. So the second part, or the third part, if you like, of the reason why the value was there for Royal Salute was the association that they would get with other parties. So the first was about the sport being the king of sports, sport of kings. The second was that they could build it up over a period of time. And the third was they would get reflection of their brand value through the association with other brands that were associated actively with polo, and in fact reinforcing their involvement with our events in China. So we were fortunate that a lot of these brands have great experience and track records with polo globally, and therefore came in to give credibility to what we were doing. Royal Salute was doubly fortunate because they were the lesser known brand at the time, but by dominating this event, they themselves got reflected glory from these other brands. The media interest part, we both worked actively on that, as I said, through the pre-training of media as well, and taking people onto media down to the club and getting them on horses, giving them the background. But we also got 160 plus media at each of the events and generated significant value. And that's our company's activities to educate the media as a sports platform, but also using their brand agents and as a brand company going through their agencies. And the combination hits a very wide range of media which ends up being quite reinforcing. We had a strategy which had different messages going to different types of media. So we would take care of the sports side of things, the newsworthiness, who's coming in, and Raw Salute through their agency would take care of the lifestyle part of the media, the celebrity type. We both invested together on the TV coverage. We believed that was important because of the reach. And one of the reasons why we took the decision on getting the TV coverage was that it's the corridor conversation effect. We wanted the target community that we're both going for is the super affluent, the small business owners or the large business owners, super affluent individuals. And one of the triggers that we realize is that they're triggered by their association is if they overhear a conversation in the corridor at work, or their staff talking about an event, was so-and-so there, were you there, did you know about this event? And these people would like to have the ability to say, yes, I was there, or I was invited. And so this is maybe a longer term effect, and it has greater benefit in the second and third and fourth years, but it's something that we invested in from the beginning. Get the TV coverage there, because that gets a wider hit audience. Now that audience isn't itself who we're trying to attract in, but they are influencers on the business leaders or the super affluent that we are trying to get in. We had a relatively active online site with results, blow-by-blow accounts, but more importantly, we found through tracking where people have been on the background stories about who's involved in Polo, not only from the celebrities who came, but why, and reading their interviews, but also globally, who are the stars of Polo, and so forth. We found that people's time dwell on the site was quite extensive, particularly in the first and second years, where I think people were getting informed about what the sport was all about. Celebrity support was again important. It helps hit another type of media or media messaging. It gives some endorsement. And we, in the first few years with Raw Salute, were very much paying for celebrity endorsement. And then in latter years, we would have the celebrities, maybe not the A-listers or the B-listers, but we'd have a number of in the zones, well-known personalities, who would be then inquiring from us if they could get passes. And I think that's a great example of the reinforcement that can happen over time when an event is built up as a must-see, a must-go-to event. Some of the minor celebrities start approaching us and making sure that they are going to be seen around in front of the cameras. In terms of brand communication platform, what we did is we built in many, many different ways of capturing people's attention. So not only, I'll show you some other slides later on, but not only on the obvious things like the shirts and the billboards and the awards and cups, but also in terms of, as you'll see with the Lamborghini here, bringing them into the opening parade. We had some support from Rolls on different VIP limo services and so forth. So we did high jewelry raffles and fittings for designs. So there are multiple ways that we could bring in different brands without them conflicting with the overall umbrella, being the Raw Salute umbrella. The tournament itself, we extended it out over 3 days. If you think about a game, something like the Tennis Masters, we're all familiar with that. It goes on for a week plus. The day that really matters is the finals day. And it's similar with the polo in that the day that matters is the finals day. But by extending out the period of time, into our case 3 days, what we have the ability to do is have different types of audiences brought in to different days and different events. So the first day may be much more for the trade type people and some of the institutions and the government people. It starts on maybe a Friday. And the second day is more social. We can make the atmosphere much more welcoming to, say, relaxed picnicking on the side and take your own champagne and find a nice spot in the sunshine. And the last day back to be much more formal. That's really when the VIPs start arriving. The ground for a polo match is very large. It's about 6 times the size of a soccer field, to give you an idea. And that gives us lots of space for people to move around during the day to different areas. We have activities they can do for kids over here, for retail experiences. We have dining facilities and so forth. And it became very important for Royal Salute as a partner to be dominant everywhere. So they can't be everywhere because the space is too big, you can't brand out that much, but they can be dominant everywhere. So on this side over here, they dominate by, we created a special interactive entertainment hospitality area for the VIPs. We have different players, interactions, and meet player experiences in there. And over on the retail side, we have bar set up, party venues, and so forth. The signs around it are a mixture. Typically with Royal Salute, we give them about 30-35% of the signage. Again, the audience are going to spend a lot of time, or the guests are going to spend a lot of time at the venue, maybe a whole day. They're driving out of town. It's not like going to a ballroom for an evening cocktail party, a quick presentation, and run away. They're going to drive out or be driven out in the morning. They're going to have lunch out there. They're going to come back in the afternoon. So it's important that the whole environment has enough for them to do. They're not getting bored. They're not going to only be staring, or don't expect them to only stare at the activity on the field. And of course, all of those other activities they're doing are opportunities for reinforcement of the brand messaging and brand positioning. So thinking through the movement and interests of the audience members or different groups, different segments within the audience members became critical to making sure the event was received well. And for example, if you're targeting the business owner, he may well come with his wife or girlfriend. And you've got to think about, we had to think about how they would be spending their time in this branded environment, what kind of activities would be appropriate for each, and probably separately, as well as sometimes together. And so we built things like gaming tables for the guys. We also had trying out, riding a horse. We had things here, but we have places where the ladies get taught about etiquette, wearing hats. They have choices about things like that. So, and dresses for sale, and milliners who can design hats for them on site, as well as artists and sketches. So we thought about the different types of guests that we would have and build it all into a branded experience. The feeling has to be unified and integrated, however. You can't feel like a bazaar or a supermarket. And so we try to build as much as possible under the same color theme, luxury carpeting and sitting around and so forth. The valued audiences started to come through, as I said, particularly in the second and third years, when we had also inquiries from reasonably influential and very affluent individuals who wanted to start buying or having their name associated with teams. So, for example, Dr. Yan Bin, Red Bull, he, in 2009, even asked to have his own team. Well, actually, 2008 had his own team. 2009, he was so excited about it, he actually said he wanted to build his own club as well. Sandy Liang from Star River Properties, she wanted to not only have her own team to play in this event, she wanted to use it for entertaining her VIP owners of the properties. So she wanted to have her own dedicated hospitality area. And then she herself wanted to get on a horse and not exactly compete, but at least parade in front of the audience as well. So that association, that personal association with the sport is something very special, I think quite unique. People can go to a tennis match, but they're going to sit in the audience. They're not going to be the one on the floor. They can go to a golf game and they can watch the masters playing, but they're not going to have that real ability to get in front of the cameras and perform. Whereas in polo, we can create those opportunities for the major sponsors during the course of the day. And that's something that Royal Salute very much latched onto with both sponsorship of the team, but also a development program for key customers of theirs. The game itself is high drama, high action, very high speed, and no safety barriers. So it's one of the few full contact sports left in the world. And so when the game is fully in flow, the audience tends to be very, very drawn into it. The problem for audience participation is purely the size of the field, and the ball was very small. And so one of the other things we found is very important with that TV coverage was to make sure that we train the TV camera crews beforehand in order that they could get right into the game, and also the editing staff, so they knew what to expect, where the flow of the game was going to go, and how to really maximize that. And the promotional videos that came out afterwards were very impactful, because the game itself, if you get the camera into the action, is very, very exciting, very prestigious. The media, very much, we're very excited about it. As I said, we regularly get more than 150, 160 media to these events, and there's lots of things that are new and newsworthy, but we also try and build in the media experience very differently. So at times we've done speeches in front of the main VIP area. At times we've taken the media actually to sit on the horse. Lots of different ways of interacting. There's so much nuances that we can bring out, the background stories of the horse, the background stories of the individuals. And another key part of the lifestyle of the combinations, partnership with Royal Salute that we've created, is the evening gala dinner. And depending on the overall budget, it can vary in location and so forth. But we also took over 1933, this venue here, and built the whole platform and stage inside, and created a Talk of the Town event. And I think that's another key important aspect, in that it extends the total brand interaction time, or the interaction time the brand has got with the VIP guests. And both with Cartier and with Royal Salute, when they're bringing in guests to these kind of events, in order to put enough support behind it, they want to bring in that guest from maybe Hong Kong, certainly the other parts of China. They'll often be paying for obviously the flights and maybe the accommodation. They want to make sure they've got enough time to inculcate the audience with the whole brand experience, living the brand. What does living the brand mean? And so it's not only about being out of town at a polo club watching an event. There's also the gala dinner aspect, and the celebrity appearances at that. And that became a very, very key aspect of what we put together. The Polo Party is, we do it on a separate night, oftentimes usually the last night of the whole tournament, and that's a much more social occasion. The players are celebrating or commiserating their wins or losses. But again, a different atmosphere, high energy, and with a group like Pernod Ricard Group, of which Ross is part of, that gave an opportunity for them to have other brands express their theme in that space. So what's the overall results? Well, the results were quite outstanding for the brand partner. Royal Salute claiming to have more than 10 times return economically in their first year alone, which is the year that they arguably were expecting lower results because they hadn't built up the momentum at that point in time. And that's on the total budget that they're putting in is about 12 million. About 12 million RMB. Don't know whether they should say that. My partner went on. And that includes the gala dinner part. And they're putting in a fair amount of money, and seeing quite significant returns on that in terms of sales. So it's very tangible for them, as well as, of course, the brand building. They know, some of the audience stats. We're hitting 40 of China's richest audience, China's 150, and we know the audience that came on site. There's many ways of calculating the ROI, as well as the media value and so forth. But I think quite a successful investment from their point of view. Royal Salute started this relationship with Polo with us in China, and has subsequently scaled it and gone global with it. Now taking their relationship with Polo into Dubai, India, they've just done India, London, and probably elsewhere as well. So it's a platform that has changed their approach to positioning globally, and also the TVCs, creative TVCs, which have gone global as well. So with that, I will conclude. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Steve. Maybe if you don't mind, one or two questions. Again, we have to apologize for the. I think your partner had a last-minute emergency meeting, we were told, so he could not join you.
I'll step over here. I'll be more sweet.
Do we have a question? I basically have a question. You said at the end that Royal Salute is now going to incorporate this Polo Sports in their branding strategy all over the world, right? Yeah. But it started in China.
Yeah, correct, yeah. So the theme, what happened in China was faster and bigger than anybody expected, something faster and bigger than we had expected. The audience numbers that came in, the media value created was much bigger than Twitter. And their sales results were also bigger than they had expected. And so they then said that there was a space that they could leverage to go into other markets and hope to have a replication of that success. The most similar market they chose next was India, where Polo was quite well established, but there was no real competing alcohol brand at that point. So they could again quickly dominate that space. And also they took a model very similar to that which we developed here in China with them for the whole lifestyle experience rather than just sponsorship of a match. And then Dubai and obviously carry on. And in the UK, they're being quite selective because it's quite a crowded market right now with alcohol brands in Polo. But they're just trying to be with their super high limited edition products.
And out of interest, I think you talked on that very quickly, but obviously a lot of luxury brands are more naturally associated with Polo than Royal Salute, I guess, initially. And there's a number of them. Were they involved, or are you planning to involve them now that you have created the platform for the Polo sport in China?
Yeah, all the brands I showed before we've worked with, and we do events with them. And the difference is that what we found, if a brand, let's take a brand even such as Cartier.
Capri, yeah.
So if a brand like Cartier has a long history with Polo. They've been running the Untitled Championship in the UK for maybe 26 years, 27 years.
Yeah.
What they are very cautious of when they look at a market like China is how well will the execution be compared to how well it is back at home or in the UK. And they don't want to be diluted of their global level with what can be executed here. So they tend to take, or they took with us, a much more cautious approach. And they wanted to come in and make sure they were involved in the space and owned the space, but not in a way that they would be headlining, because they were more worried about the execution. Whereas Royal Salute had a lot more to gain, and therefore was very keen that they headlined.
Well, you know, that's very interesting, because actually, talking about Cartier, you may know in India, which is obviously for them at the moment a smaller market in terms of size, they have organized already actually a polo tournament with elephants replacing the horses. You may know this, right?
A one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because of that, that's why they're quite cautious.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Do we have questions for Steve? Yeah.
I would like to know, Polo is maybe has the image of being Anglo-Saxon kind of sports. If I'm a French cognac or Armagnac brand, are there any other sports you may recommend for my positioning? For China specifically.
Okay, I think the one nuance that I didn't say up there, and I'll deal with two parts of the question. So the first one is, so the Anglo-Saxon heritage of polo is in fact a misnomer. And so the core thing that makes polo take off in China is that China, the greater China area, is probably the cradle of where polo comes from. And so one of the reasons why we've seen it adopted, I think, and embraced so strongly, particularly in the Beijing area, is that recognition that golf is Scottish, but polo could well be Chinese. And so it's a sense of national identity to it. And so we promoted the Sport of Kings, King of Sports angle in the first year, and then quickly realized that we were missing the whole reason for people to be embracing polo in China. And so the whole campaign essentially has changed now to be about it being Chinese. In terms of a suitable platform for a French brand, I think I would say don't brand something. I mean, I'm sure your brand is French already. I wouldn't say that. I would say try to find something that's relevant for Chinese. And so it doesn't have to be a French sport or whatever. You can have a quality of the brand or the Armagnac you have or whatever it is, a quality, something like that, that's going to be, which will resonate with the local market here. Because the local market is increasingly aware of its heritage and proud about the national identity. So I would be looking for a value that you can take from your brand into something that resonates with them, rather than trying to impose or bring in a foreign sport. For Armagnac, I don't know much about Armagnac, but I don't have to think about sailing. Yeah, we only did a little bit of sailing. I think that what I've seen with sailing is that for some reason, which I've not yet got to the bottom of, there's a mid-class of boats which is quite appealing and attracts Chinese sailors. The smaller dinghy kind of thing doesn't seem to resonate very much, and the super big ones, again, for some reason, doesn't seem to be attractive right now. But we were involved in two things in Qingdao, which were sailing regattas, and very active participation in sort of the 16-meter yacht size.
And do you see the horse riding, more than just polo, becoming more of a popular sport and activity in China?
Yeah, I mean, horse is massively growing now in the psyche. So actually it's quite interesting, once you're in the sector or now you go out the route, you should look at the advertising that's going on. The horse, the image of the horse is now very frequently used in advertising, and also statues and so forth around this. So we've seen a very large increase in the imagery and association of the horse into all kinds of different platforms. And I think that's something that is really going to accelerate further. And because there are many ways that a lot of the fables, if you like, or the classic Chinese legend stories, oftentimes have a horse involved in it. And so again, once that archive gets further and further explored and exposed in popular media, then I think you'll see it continue to increase. The princess galloping to her lover or escaping to her death or whatever. Yeah. Great.
Any more questions for Steve today? Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It was very interesting, very inspiring. That is an end to the